Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Yes, I am the founder and editor-in-chief of The Gaming Gang. So welcome aboard. Tonight is August 26th, 2020. It is Wednesday. It's a hump day, that's for sure. This is episode 533 of The Daily Dope. I don't know why this shirt, the collar just keeps flaring out on me. It's like, what's going on here? Cut it out. It's not the 1970s here. Shirt. Yada. Anyway, welcome aboard. If this is your first time joining me, I do want to point out this is very, very casual. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. So we'll discuss board games and card games and role-playing games and miniatures. And if it's going on your tabletop, we're going to be talking about it. And of course, once in a while, we even talk a little bit about PC games as well as a little pop culture. But for the most part, it's all tabletop gaming around here. So also want to mention that if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, when you do subscribe, ring that little notification bell. It'll not only let you know when the Daily Dope streams live, Monday through Thursday nights, right here on YouTube. It'll also tell you when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming unboxing of the Battle of Rhode Island from GMT Games. Although on the side, it says the Battles of Rhode Island and Newport. It's kind of funny. So sort of like GMT wasn't sure how they wanted to title this game. So I'm just going to refer to it as the Battle of Rhode Island. Anyway, also when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. In fact, next week on September 1st, the Gaming Gang will be celebrating our 10th anniversary of covering tabletop gaming. So pretty wild. So also want to mention that chat is available right here on YouTube since this is a live stream. Chat's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, but I do my best to pay attention to chat. So if you want to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question or a comment, by all means, please chime in. I will do my best to respond. So far, I do see we've got a Gray Day and the Madman are here in chat. Good to see you both, gents. I do understand the Madman's under the weather a little bit, so here's hoping you're back on your feet and feeling 100% ASAP. Madman just, saw on Twitter, so just passing along some good healing vibes your way. Anyway, kind of quiet day so far. Once again, really hot, really humid. It's actually very uncomfortable down here in the Duct Tape Studios tonight. It's kind of clammy. It's the only word I can really kind of come up with to describe it. It feels clammy. It's not really hot, although it has been pretty hot and humid outside. It is cooler down here, but it's also really humid. Like I said, the only word that kind of pops in my head is clammy. Anyway, so let's jump on into the news because I got a good bit of news for us tonight. First off, arriving in October from Pandasaurus Games is God's Love Dinosaurs. I do not know who came up with that title, but I've got the dope. How do you make an ecosystem flourish with just enough of every life form in the chain to supply you with dinosaurs to dominate the lands? Resources are scarce, animals can go extinct in an area, and everyone must eat to survive. So moves must be cunning. Life hangs in the balance. In God's Love Dinosaurs, a cheeky, wild, and timeless take on the scientific tale as old as life itself, you are a god who has been tasked with designing an ecosystem with a sustainable food chain of predator and prey animals. But you just love dinosaurs, so all you really want to do is make as many of them as possible. Each turn, you'll add one tile to your ecosystem, which will add new animals and give them room to grow. Every so often, your dinosaurs will tromp around your ecosystem, eating all the animals. The more they eat, the more eggs they lay, and the more points you score. Just be careful not to overeat. Yeah, I know that problem. Or there won't be enough food to keep your dinosaurs alive the next time. God's Love Dinosaurs is for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, plays in 45 to 60 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $39.99 when it hits stores on October 21st. Interesting. Game sounds kind of cool. Little dominant species-ish, possibly. Maybe kind of a dominant species light-ish sort of game. I just got to say, I don't know who came up with that title because I honestly think that title is going to kind of irritate people, if you know where I'm coming from. So I'm not, not like you're going to see this show up like on the shelves of stores that are by that Ark Museum and things like that. But I don't know. I don't know. So a Grade A says Clammy is better than Tropical Storm 4. Actually, it's a hurricane. It's a Category 4 hurricane. They have bumped it up. Yes, hopefully those people who are in its path are getting out of its path because they are saying that it is going to contain an unsurvivable surge. So that is not good. So there's some questions about, is there an asteroid in this game? wipe out all those dinosaurs that gods love? I don't know. So, you know what? Maybe that's like the finale to it, right? So, the Great Ace saying, yes, just dropped the bowling ball from his closet on the game. There you go. There's your asteroid. So, the madman points out that his sister and family had to evacuate to Galveston, Texas. Yikes. And Galveston isn't necessarily a great locale. I seem to recall a pretty horrible hurricane hit Galveston about 100 years ago or so. That was awful. So anyway, I should kind of move off of that game if we're kind of talking about Hurricane Laura, because I just feel kind of strange saying, hey, I hope everybody in its path, both in Louisiana, Texas, wherever it ends up, hitting land, is really doing their best to stay safe and taking things seriously. I know we live in an age where scientists, police and agencies tell us, okay, this is going to happen here. Wear a mask. I don't need to wear a mask. Forget that. Hopefully folks out there are getting out of the path of this storm because it's going to be bad. All right. It's Wednesday. I always like talking about war games on Wednesday. So, GMT has a new volume of the Last 100 Yards series. It's up on their P500 system for pre-order. Here's the dope on The Last 100 Yards, The Solomon Islands. The Last 100 Yards Volume 3, The Solomon Islands, is the third game in the Last 100 Yards series. This game focuses on the vicious and brutal Solomon's campaign, including actions to control the islands of Guadalcanal, Bougainville, and New Georgia. Yes, and I have heard other people pronounce it as Bougainville, but I'm going to stick to my Baba Black Sheep pronunciation here. When you play the Solomon Islands campaign missions, you'll experience some of the fiercest small unit actions in the Pacific theater. The game will focus on actions involving the 1st and 3rd Marine Divisions, the Old Breed and the Fighting 3rd, as well as the Army's 25th Infantry Division, the unit that finally drove the Japanese off the island, earning them the nickname Tropic Lightning. Take to the jungles of Guadalcanal with the 1st Marine Division as they begin the first ground offensive of the war. Landed onto Guadalcanal and with intermittent naval support as the struggle for naval supremacy raged offshore, the Marines fought tooth and nail to secure their small foothold around Henderson Airfield. They fought against Japanese reinforcements coming from all over the South Pacific area, engage in bitter jungle fighting with the 3rd Marine Division as they attempt to hold and expand the beachhead on Bougainville Island against the Imperial Japanese 6th Infantry Division. Finally, served the 25th Infantry Division's famed 27th Regiment, the Wolfhounds, as they try to reduce Japanese positions on Guadalcanal's Galloping Horse Ridge, an action that's portrayed in the movie The Thin Red Line. You'll also fight with the Wolfhounds in the jungle around Munta Point for the airfield on New Georgia. Each of these actions involve tense jungle warfare and the routing out of fanatical Japanese units from hidden bunkers and pillboxes. You'll understand the nerve-wracking frustration of clearing an enemy position only to have infiltrators attack you yet again from a different direction at night. This volume introduces new weapons and terrain, including flamethrowers, anti-tank half-tracks, light and heavy jungle. Each mission will provide new challenges with different elements, forces, and situations encountered, making this volume an exciting and nail-biting addition to the Last 100 Yard series. Please note, this game is standalone. It does not require ownership of the Last 100 Yards to be played. The Last 100 Yards, the Solomon Islands, is for 2 players, ages 14 and up. You can pre-order at the P500 price right now. It is $41. It will have a regular MSRP of $60 when it actually shows up in stores. Do want to mention there are a little more than 340 pre-orders for this already. I know GMT calls it the P500, and a lot of times it's usually about 700 or 800 pre-orders that they really want before they go to print with it. So even though they call it a P500, it doesn't necessarily mean that if they get 500 pre-orders, it's going to go to print. Granted, the Last 100 Yards, did a review of it. I enjoyed it. It's fairly crunchy in some ways, and then it's not in other ways. It's unique. I'll tell you that right now. And I really did think it was different than a lot of the other war games out there, especially at that kind of squad level, sort of tactical war game level. So Grade A points out that Volume 2 is just shipping out. So I did know that, although funny enough, it's really not up on GMT's website, I don't think, that they're showing that this is actually shipping out. So I do see Cameron F. has popped into chat with us. Good to see you, Cameron. Welcome aboard. I believe this might be your first visit with us, so welcome to chat. So Agrede says, the Last 100 Yards is quirky. That's a good word. Yeah, I guess we'll say that's pretty good. To get used to his playstyle, but it's fun, and the author is active and supportive. Well, yeah, we've got 3 volumes now. So Agrede says, print usually has to be more than 300, I should say 750 pre-orders. Yeah, for GMT. Sometimes even over 900. I know, because there were a lot of times when people would contact me. I don't work for GMT. I mean, I don't know why people think I would have like some. I don't usually have like super inside dope about GMT, but I would have people say, "Oh, hey, well, there's 540 orders for XYZ game. How come they haven't gone to print with that yet? And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it works. So anyway, so hi TGG. Well, I'm Jeff. Welcome aboard, Cameron. And I see Mel Winius from York has rolled in along with Jorge Rodriguez. So we've got some more folks hanging out in chat. Welcome aboard, everybody. Happy hump day. So a Grade A says their printing queue is the log jam. Yes, they really fell way behind too, of course, with the issues with, of course, COVID-19 and all the shutdowns in China. Nothing was being produced. So, but this could be kind of interesting. I forget what volume 2 is for the last 100 yards. I know it's not Japan. So maybe it's Eastern Front. I got to admit, I always like to see more games coming out that tackle the island hopping campaign of World War II. We don't have enough. Everything's always, Eastern Front. It's always, Western Europe, that kind of stuff. It's always against the Nazis. There you go. Grade A is pointing out it's airborne. Thank you. Cool deal. All right. So how about we talk about another war game? I know we're going back to back because currently up on Kickstarter is a Vietnam war game from newcomers Cadet Games. Here's the dope on They Were Soldiers. At 10:48 a.m. on the morning of November 14th, 1965, the first 80 soldiers of the 1st Battalion of the U.S. 7th Cavalry landed in a small clearing at the foot of the Chupong Massif in central Vietnam near the Cambodian border. The Americans had landed in the middle of the base area for an entire North Vietnamese division and were almost immediately attacked from multiple sides of their small landing zone called LZ X-Ray. The battle raged over the next several days with high losses on both sides. In the end, the Americans had proved their new air mobility tactics and had inflicted high losses on the North Vietnamese army soldiers they faced. The NVA also had learned how to fight the Americans and had inflicted serious losses on a high-tech superpower enemy by using classic light infantry tactics with only a fraction of the firepower available to the Americans. This game is a turn-based operational level 2-player contest based on the battle for LZ X-Ray during the larger Battle of the Nha Trang Valley in Vietnam, 1965. There was a successful movie starring Mel Gibson made about this well-known battle for the landing zone. The game is challenging for both sides and historically accurate, but only takes a few hours and can be played in one sitting. They Were Soldiers, Battle of the Nha Trang Valley, lasts 15 turns. Each turn, players alternate moving and attacking each other's forces on the game map, which is divided into hexes. Combat can include small arms firefights between adjacent units or fire missions that target hexes with artillery, airstrikes, helicopter gunships, and mortars. At the end of the combat phase, once all fire combat is complete, adjacent units may conduct close quarters combat to decide which force will occupy contested hexes. Each turn, after all movement and combat is completed, both sides draw cards to determine special actions for the future turns and may get reinforcements according to a preset schedule based on the history of the battle. They Were Soldiers is for 2 players, ages 13 and up. Plays in 3 hours or more. It's about 3 or 4 hours. I have seen information indicating it could be as much as 6 hours. You can reserve a copy of the game with cardboard counters for a $69 pledge, or you can get the game featuring 25 millimeter miniatures for an $89 pledge. This is through September 18th. There is an expected delivery of April 2021. I think it's kind of interesting if we take a peek. There aren't a lot of images, but it looks like the pledge level that has the minis It's almost like a stacking sort of mechanic like we see in Axis and Allies, where we've got the little plastic mini that sits on top of the chips that indicates the unit strength. So looks like it's similar to that. This could be pretty cool. This is a brand new company. They're actually located just west of me. So they're located in Illinois, right on the border of Iowa, just on this side of the Mississippi. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. So this Kickstarter just launched. You got plenty of time to back it. Check it out. It could be pretty cool. I have to say, I'm kind of surprised that there's reference to the Mel Gibson movie, We Were Soldiers, but no reference to the actual book, which was a bestseller that movie is based on. And that is, if memory serves me correctly, We Were Soldiers Once and Young, which is actually a very good book. I read it years and years ago. So, all right. So there is some discussion of the last 100 yards. The Madman is kind of curious about it. Definitely check out the review. You'll get a good idea. I don't go into a detailed how to play of it. I kind of share some thoughts about some of the mechanics of the game, and I think I messed something up. I forget what it was, but you'll get a look at the game. It has kind of a similar vibe to it as Squad Leader. Now, I didn't say Advanced Squad Leader. I said Squad Leader, but I personally think the rules are a little easier to get a hold of. You shouldn't say get a hold of, get a handle on. So a Grade A says 2 different books, but same author. Ah, okay. Thanks, Grade A. See, I wasn't remembering it right. But I know I remember reading the book that's mainly about the Battle of Yadrang Valley. So, and I see Tom D has joined us in chat as well. So I talked about Free League Publishing yesterday. We talked about Wasson, which looks very cool, kind of a Victorian age horror game. But that's not the big game that's coming out next week. The big game that a lot of people are looking forward to that's coming from Free League Publishing next week is both the Aliens role-playing game starter set as well as the cinematic boxed adventure Destroyer of Worlds. And guess who's got the dope? First, we have the starter set. This box starter set is for the Alien RPG, and it contains everything you need to start playing. There's a 104-page rule book with a fast and effective rule set designed specifically to support the core themes of Alien, horror and action in the cold darkness of space. It includes the 48-page complete cinematic scenario, Chariot of the Gods by science fiction novelist Andrew E.C. Gaska, 5 pre-generated characters to play, a huge, I'm not sure how huge it is really, double-sided map with one side depicting chartered space in the year 2183 and the other floor plans for the Chariot of the Gods scenario. 84 game markers for keeping track of characters, motion tracker pings, and more. 56 high-quality custom cards for weapons, personal agendas, and initiative in combat. A set each of 10 engraved base dice and 10 stress dice designed specifically for the Alien RPG. This box starter set is going to carry an MSRP of $49.99. Then we have Destroyer of Worlds. Destroyer of Worlds is a complete cinematic scenario for the Alien role-playing game, written by sci-fi novelist Andrew E.C. Gaska, in which players take the roles of colonial marines. The scenario is designed for 3 to 5 players, plus the game mother. I hate that term. Sorry. Don't mean to be sexist or anything. Just don't like that term. As for the game master, game mother, come on. Gonna come up with something better than that. And it's a gauntlet of one hell after another. This box set includes the main Destroyer of Worlds scenario book, a huge double-sided map of Icarus, I think that's how it might be pronounced, colony on one side, and the Fort Nebraska space elevator ground base on the other. 5 pre-generated characters to play, custom cards for weapons, vehicles, and personal agendas, as well as player maps and handouts. Do want to note that you do require the Alien role-playing game core rulebook or the starter set in order to play Destroyer of Worlds. Why do I keep wanting to say Destroyer? Destroyer. Anyway, this boxed cinematic adventure will carry an MSRP of $29.99. And of course, these are both arriving in stores. Supposedly, they are slated to arrive in stores next week. Cool. Very cool. Does look like the Alien starter set has a lot more going for it than the Tales from the Loop starter set, which I really did not think much of. I mean, altogether, it was like, if I remember correctly, I think it was $30. I think it was like a $29.99 deal for the starter set, and it had some nice, halfway decent dice, but altogether, it was like 46 pages of content for $30 now. So at least this, you're getting 104 page, I think it was, core book, the adventure, which is 48 pages. So it looks like we're getting some content here in this as well. I have not checked out the Alien role-playing game. I have not. So I know Sammy had reviewed it for us. She really liked it. She really did. So Kabuki Kid has joined us in chat. And so Jorge Rodriguez says the Xenomorph would make a good enemy in a low-power campaign. And Malwinius is like, ooh, the Alien RPG. Thanks, Get, for the PDF. Yes, Malwinius won one of our contests, and he scored the core rulebook. And Kabuki Kid says they're obviously riffing on the idea that the computer on the Nostromo was called Mother. Yes, and they're also trying to make sure that they're trying to figure out something that GM would represent, because for some reason they were hooked onto, they wanted to call the game master a GM, but not a game master. That I have heard. So that is not me pontificating. That is what I've heard from someone at Free League, was that they wanted GM, but they did not want to say game master. I don't know. So, yes, Double K is following Tom D around again. It's because you're an awesome drummer, Tom. If I remember right, isn't that what Kabuki said? Kabuki Kid said Tom's an awesome drummer. I think that's. I'm lucky I can remember what day it is, people. Let alone who said what in chat. All right, let's get to the final news piece, which is going to actually kind of lead me into a little bit of a riff as well. But following a highly successful Kickstarter for Hunters Entertainment and Renegade Game Studios, the role-playing game Alice is Missing has arrived in PDF. Here's the dope. From the creative mind behind Icarus, a storytelling game about how great civilizations fall, say that 5 times fast, comes Spencer Stark's next project, Alice is Missing, a silent role-playing game about the disappearance of Alice Briarwood, a high school junior in the small town of Silent Falls. Developed by Hunters Entertainment and published and distributed by Renegade Game Studios, Alice is Missing is a unique kind of role-playing game in which players only communicate using their phones, sending text messages to each other as they unearth clues about what happened to Alice. The game is played live and without verbal communication. Players inhabit their characters for the entirety of the 90-minute play session, and instead of speaking, send text messages back and forth to the other characters in a group chat, as well as individually, as though they aren't in the same place together. Hauntingly beautiful, deeply personal, and highly innovative, Alice is Missing puts a strong focus on the emotional attachment between players, immersing them in a tense, dramatic mystery that unfolds organically through the text messages they send to one another. Right at home with games like Life is Strange, Gone Home, Oxenfree, and Firewatch, it's designed to feel as much like an event style experience as it does a role playing game. I'm going to step away from the sales sheet info here. Really surprised that they compare it to those games because those games are PC games. Those are not tabletop role playing games. Don't know. Alice is Missing runs over a single session of 2 to 3 hours. Of course, they said 90 minutes, but I don't know. With 3 to 5 players. In the first 45 minutes, players create their characters, their relationships to Alice, and their ties with each other. The next 90 minutes are spent uncovering secrets and unearthing clues in an attempt to discover where Alice is and who is behind her disappearance. I promise I had nothing to do with it. Through text messages, I should say, though text messages seem to be the most common mode of communication in our modern era, it's not. I don't know why they say that either. They are rarely utilized as a storytelling medium. The integration of texting into the gameplay unlocks a brand new way to play RPGs that is unlike anything you've likely experienced before. It's personal, immersive, and perfect for remote play. The box set for Alice is Missing will arrive in December. It's going to carry an MSRP of $20, while the 48-page PDF is available right now at Drive-Thru RPG for $9.99. Of course, whenever I talk about Drive-Thru RPG, keep in mind the Gaming Gang and thus the Daily Dope are affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to swing over to the Drive-Thru sites, say Drive-Thru RPG for an example, please make sure to visit the Gaming Gang first. Click on one of our banner ads, and that way, if you do make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. And all those little portions really add up, really do help out. So as far as this game, let's go back. We'll just bring that news back up. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from checking this out because this could be very interesting. It is certainly not a role-playing game that's going to be catering to me. I just got to be honest. And this funded within, I think it funded within the first hour when it was up on Kickstarter. It did really, really well. Brought in, I think it did like 130,000 based on a $10,000 goal. So there are a lot of people who jumped on this. I don't know. Like I said, it could be great for certain groups. I can't imagine this being like, oh well, let's just get together and play, this. That I don't see where it's like you're playing with people you don't know really well. That I don't believe would be. So Kabuki Kid says, I like the art. The art does look interesting. It's got kind of a comic book style to the artwork. So like I said, I'm not trying to dissuade people from checking this out. I just couldn't imagine myself playing it. Number one, I can't imagine sitting there not talking at all during a game and just texting one another. I'm not really one for, I mean, I text, don't get me wrong, but I'm not one of these people who sits there and that's all I do is text. I would rather call somebody, and most of my friends are the same way. Rather than just texting back and forth, just pick up the damn phone, call somebody, and just 2 seconds later, you're done. Hey, man, what's going on with this? Oh, we're going to do that. Okay, great. I'll see you there. Okay, great. Bye. Rather than the texting. Yeah. Anyway, plus this is a game that is obviously, so to me, it feels like a game along the lines of, if anybody out there remembers the game 10 Candles, which that was just super hot, and everybody was talking, oh, 10 Candles. Oh my gosh, have you played 10 Candles? Oh, wow, you got to play 10 Candles. And I did. I thought, well, this is interesting. And then it was kind of one of these games where it was like, well, okay, so now I've played it. I don't need to play it again. This is sort of the same way. This is like just a one-shot kind of adventure. I don't know. I don't know. So Grade A says there's still lots of 10 Candles, lots of people Jenga RPG. Yeah. Yep. So Cameron mentions, I'd rather talk to my friends than text them. I'm 31. Everyone thinks I'm weird. No, I understand that. I get that as well. So Grade A says everybody's playing the Icarus RPG. Well, that's not true. Not everyone's playing that. So this is one of the things, and I'm gonna have to disagree with a Grade A on this. You run across people who, and once again, I'm not knocking Alice is Missing. I'm just saying this is not a niche of role-playing games that I have an interest in. I have an interest in setting a scene, using language to create a story, not necessarily like texting. To me, texting would be like, let's just, So Cameron's asking, what is the Icarus RPG? It's basically the players create a civilization and then they create events which lead to the downfall of the civilization. Once again, I have not played it. I have heard interesting things about it, but once again, it is not a game that everybody's playing. I think some of these independent role-playing games that we see that get a lot of buzz, that sometimes they'll, maybe they win an Emmy. It's just, I think they get the buzz. People pick them up, they check them out, and then they sit there, and the person who bought the game goes right back to running whatever it is they've been running in the past. I honestly think that's what happens a lot. Now, granted, there are people out there who are big fans of, say, like The Gauntlet and Codex magazine, and they're all these kind of unusual. Some of them are kind of, I shouldn't say some. Some of the games are based on, they're powered by the apocalypse, but they also have kind of an unusual vibe to them as well. And once again, I think that's cool that people do that, and that's out there and that is available to people. But the reality is, the people are out there and they are playing the Savage Worlds, the Dungeons and Dragons, the Pathfinders, the Call of Cthulhu's, the Rune Quests, the Tales from the Loop, stuff like they're playing the bigger games, probably playing some Alien out there. Although, in my opinion, I think the Alien role-playing game is probably better suited for those cinematic adventures, which are like the one-shots. Although, granted, it might take you more than one session to finish playing it, but it's not an ongoing campaign. There's no ongoing story to it. I think those are what people still play. I'm not saying that they don't sit and say, hey, you know what? Why don't we sit around and let's play Fiasco this weekend? Fiasco's cool. We'll grab one of the play sets and we'll do a Fiasco game. And people are like, oh yeah, great, cool. It's not something that they're going back to time and time again, week after week. It's not their go-to role-playing game. So I don't know. Sometimes I sit there and I scratch my head at some of the role-playing games that come out, but then again, they're not aimed at me. Right? I say it time and time again. I have more of an old school role-playing vibe than a lot of people out there, right? I mean, there's a lot of things about 5th edition D&D and how it's run, mainly, not necessarily how it's presented, because there's things that are actually presented in the rules that are just kind of ignored. That goes for everything. But I am one of the, I say it time and time again. I'm one of these people where, you know what? I don't want my player characters come up with these big elaborate backstories for their characters when they're creating these first level characters or introductory characters, basic characters, simply because their backstories are going to become they're going to evolve from the adventures they go on. I don't want to have to sit there and try to pigeonhole 5 different, 4 different people's backstories into something that I'm going to run. I don't appreciate that, because you know what? It's going to be a worse experience. It just will. So, anyway. So Cameron says, Icarus sounds fun but grim. Yeah, I guess. Like I said, I am not overly aware of it, but and another thing I would say, some of these off the wall sort of role playing games, I think more people talk about the games than actually play them. So, just as an example, once again, I shared a news piece for Alice is Missing because I think people out there would be interested. I understand it's not marketed to me. Okay. I'm not trying to knock the game. It's just not my thing, right? But I saw, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I saw a review blurb, and the review blurb was, unlike any other game I've played. And I see this from time to time from reviewers. And it kind of reminds me of when you see these like movie reviews where they just cherry pick a little quote out of it. It's not necessarily movies, it's anything. And it'd be like, the overall review is actually negative, but there's like some glimmer in that review. So, of course, they cherry pick that line out and say, oh, Rex Reed says. The Rex Reed doesn't like anything, so it doesn't matter. That's what I kind of get sometimes. So I have to laugh when I see stuff like that. So when I see something where it's a reviewer saying, oh, this is completely different than anything I've ever played, and they don't explain if that's a good thing, I think that's a problem. All right. So there is some discussion of Seventh Continent. You know what? I'm not even familiar with that. Huh. Never heard of it. Never heard of Seventh Continent. Okay, maybe I've heard of it. I just don't know about it. I know, once again, I share my ignorance that I don't know about every game out there, nor have I played every game out there. All right, and Martin O'Brien is popping in the chat. I believe this is maybe Martin's first visit with us. Welcome aboard. All right, very cool. So that is it for tonight's show. Once again, I'm going to remind you, next Monday there is no show, but next Tuesday we'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Gaming Gang. So kind of cool. Never expected to be doing this 10 years. But, well, of course, they haven't been doing the Daily Dope for 10 years. We're in our 3rd year of that. But anyway, so I will be back tomorrow, though. But I do want to remind you that next Monday there will not be an episode of the Daily Dope. All right. Anyway, as Kabuki Kid congratulates me on 10 years, I know, pretty wild. Anyway, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, be sure to ring that notification bell, because it will not only let you know when the Daily Dope streams live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube. Sorry, there's a bug like flying right off one of the lights here, and it's kind of distracting me. It's like, how did you get down here? Anyway, if you ring that notification bell, it'll not only let you know when the Daily Dope streams live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube, I'll also tell you when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming unboxing and first look at Carnival of Monsters from Amigo. This is designed by Richard Garfield. Heard good things about it too. So I will have an unboxing video of it up this weekend, as well as probably follow up with a review pretty quickly because we're once again supposed to do some gaming this weekend with the gang. So very cool. Very cool. Anyway, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night / Thursday morning. Those of you who popped in, watched live, and joined me in chat, very much appreciated. Always appreciate folks hanging out and keeping me company while I babble on and on and on. But if you happen to watch after the fact, even on Memorex, I certainly appreciate that as well. In fact, got a soft spot for anybody who takes some time watching this goofball just pontificate. Anyway, that is it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow. And of course, as I've been closing out the videos, unfortunately, during this time of pandemic, please be sure to be smart and stay safe. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, let me point out that the things I'm going to be pointing at, if you are just watching the Daily Dope stream, you may not see what I'm pointing at. Usually it will take about 12 hours once the stream is finished for YouTube to allow me to add my end screen. But if you're watching one of my other videos, such as my reviews or interviews, first looks, page throughs, what have you, well, then by all means, click right here and you can subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel. If you click right up here, you'll find the latest episode of my live stream, The Daily Dope. And if you click over here, that's going to show you something that YouTube thinks you might like. Regardless, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and thank you very much for watching.